because I've got 10 o'clock. So I hope that all of you are doing well. I posted today's lesson. I posted color diagrams and what else? I think that was my responsibility for the class for this morning, besides the video conference. And so thank you all for joining me. Today, we had a question about mini flat irons and using flat irons on neon rays. And so I thought I would show you, I've got two different flat irons. I have this one that is corded. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on so we can use it. And you can see it's very small. And I just keep it in my, beside my stitching station here at the house. And then I have another one that's cordless. It has a USB connection right there so you can charge it. And when you go to seminars and stuff, you have to have a cordless one. So that's this one. It's a little bit bigger, and I'm not as happy with the reliability of this one. Let me go ahead and get it turned on. I'm not as happy with the reliability of this one, but I use it when I need to if I'm traveling because I can't have cord. So that's why I have two. Now, you may be able to find a cordless rechargeable mini flat iron that is more reliable. If you do, please let me know. I don't think this one is available any longer on Amazon, is where I get everything, is on Amazon. And
Debbie,
yeah.
I have one that's the size of the first one, the one that's corded, that's rechargeable and cordless, and I found it on Amazon. But it's okay. That size, but it's cordless, so it fits in your bag better. And
okay.
It's been great. So
okay.
As long as you have to watch it, and you can tell when it's running out of juice and charge it back up. But
right,
it's good.
Yeah.
Hey, can you
how long does the
charge
last?
Okay, one at a time. Kathy,
how long does the charge last?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Gay.
I'd say a couple of days. It depends on how much you're using it, but I keep a cord and the charge cord and a plug close by, and so when I need to charge it, it charges up really fast. It's on Amazon, and I don't have a link. It's been a couple of years since I bought it, but I'm sure you could find it.
Okay.
Okay.
Kathy, did you have a question?
Okay. Can you post the brand at least or something? Just put it in the chat. If you can, that would be nice. Thank you.
Another suggestion is to get a gassed, I have a gas curling iron, and it just takes a cartridge.
Oh.
And it's cordless. I don't know if you could find a flat iron. I haven't looked. I have a flat iron, but I'm sure you could find it with gas. And they last, and they actually get hotter than your normal curling irons.
Okay.
It's just a suggestion.
Okay. Okay, so let me show you how to use it. I have my neon rays. It's off of the card. I don't need a lot. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get quite a bit because I'm going to show y'all some things about the sprat's head. Doorbell. The way our house is, we have a really, Spirit, hush, hush. We have a really large house, and we don't have an entrance to the front door, so we have the doorbell run. So we have a doorbell by the garage, and they ring that doorbell. It rings in here so I can hear it, and so can the dogs. So anyway, okay, let's use my mini flat iron. I've cut some neon rays, and all you do is you just slide it through. Now, my mini flat iron is not adjustable. Can y'all see how straight that got now? Okay, so now I'm going to turn this off. I think that this is a design flaw on a lot of curling irons, and both of mine have this feature that on-off switch is inside by the plates, which that does not make sense to me. I think it should be outside. Okay, now turned off. Turn this one off.
Debbie, we have a question on the chat.
Okay.
Is the neon rays used anywhere else in the piece? Marilyn Owen's asking because she had to replace one of her Spratz heads and has very little left.
No, I don't think so. I'd have to let me look at the color picture real fast. No, it is not. But that brings up a point that if you run out of anything, let me know and I'll send you more. That's the neon rays, silk lame braid, cotton floss, whatever. Let me know and I'll send you more, okay? So you don't have to worry about finding stuff. I know that it's difficult for a lot of us to be out shopping, and I don't want to order anything online if I only need one of something, because I don't want to pay a shipping charge, $7, $8 to send me a card of neon rays. So y'all let me know. I will put it in an envelope and send it to you, okay? Okay, now I am going to, does anybody have any questions about using a mini flat iron on your neon rays? Everybody okay with that? Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to show you some things about the Spratz head that we're stitching, because it's really easy to get off of the count on the Spratz head. So I'm going to start the slideshow. No, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Let me see if I can share my screen. Share my screen. Okay. Oh. Host disabled, participant screen sharing. Okay. So Kelly, can you?
Yeah. The lady who made the host needs to allow you to share.
Okay.
Yeah, let me fix that.
Okay.
Okay, where are you for that?
It's kind of like having a class angel for those of you who've been in face-to-face
Hopefully.
classes.
Because I'm like, okay, how do I get to where? There we go. Advanced sharing options. Okay, one participant who can share. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay, this is what I'm going to share so that you can see. My slideshow. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to zoom in on this. Okay, so here's where the Spratz heads are. This honey gold color, I think is what it's called. And you can see that it's on the same channel as the tip of the double crosses. That makes it really easy to count. You know, I brought my needle up. I traced my needle over from here to find where it ended. And so I didn't have to really count this at all. But where you're going to run into problems is when you start this part of it, stitching this part of it. Because our tendency is to stitch beyond the channel that the Spratz head is in. That's our tendency. Everyone has this tendency, and you have to force yourself not to do it. The first two stitches lay over the channel that you're stitching into. And so you have to kind of pull them down a little bit so that you can see where you need to be going with the endpoints for your Spratz head. So let me see if I can get out of this and go to the next slide. Okay, so I put color diagrams in the files. So this is what you'll see in the files. These are the first two stitches. And on a diagram where the lines are all nice and straight, you're going to wonder, why doesn't my sprat's head look like this diagram? And that's because you are pulling these first 2 stitches down a little bit so that you can end your threads over those. Okay, this is the same channel that the first 2 stitches are in. Let me get a laser pointer or something so we can look at that better. This is the channel that your stitches need to end in. If you are beyond this channel, things are not going to work out right. Okay, does everybody understand that? I'm going to stop sharing at this point. Does anybody have any questions about that? If you get off in your count and you need some help counting, you can send me a picture and I will count it and help you with that. I also wanted to point out that when you are, let's share this slide. You see these last 2 stitches? They are in the same hole. And so the tendency is to stitch this stitch and go, okay, I'm finished. But you're not. You need to stitch this stitch. Okay? And when you count the end points, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, not counting this first one. And you should have 12 on each side when you're finished, or you're counting for the following stitches is not going to come out right. Does everybody understand that? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because this happens frequently in my classes. Those are the 2 most common mistakes, is they don't have 12 endpoints on each side. And you need to have 12 endpoints on each side or your Amadeuses won't fit because they share holes with that. Or you stitch beyond the stitching channel. The first 2 stitches are covering the channel that you need to end your stitches in. Does everybody understand that? Does that make sense? Do you like this? Okay.
I'll say maybe we could say too, just real quickly. So it's set up that you all can unmute yourselves at any point. If you do have a question, it'll let you do that, because the host can also tell you can't unmute yourselves. But we left it you can, and then I'm just checking and making sure that when Debbie is doing instruction that everybody is muted, so we don't get any other doggy background noises, which could also happen at my house. So, okay. And you can do the raise hand or the chat feature too.
Okay, so I have my canvas all set up. Let me see if I can. Okay, Kelly, you may need to make this the spotlight video. Trying to get to it. There we go. Okay, can y'all all see this okay? Okay, so let me, I pre-counted my holes, so I don't have to do a lot of counting, but I just want to demonstrate real quickly. Okay, I'm going to start with a pinhead T-stitch right here. And a pin stitch is going to hold your neon rays really, really well, especially if you pierce it, which I don't know if I'm piercing it or not, but I may be. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my needle up for my first stitch. Now, I'm stitching in the correct orientation as far as the book is concerned, but it's going to look different because of the camera angle and everything. And hopefully when we get our good camera connected and can use it, then this won't be an issue anymore. Okay, so I'm also going to use a laying tool. This is my laying tool. I use a trolley needle, and any laying tool will work just fine. So this is how I stroke it and follow it into the hole, just like that. Okay. And it keeps it nice and flat. Oops, caught on the edges of my little canvas here. Okay. Now, when you're working with neon rays, it has a tendency, you see how it's kind of loosened up here and it doesn't stay in place the way you need it to. So what I do is I just stick my thumb on it while I'm stitching with it. And that helps to hold it down. And you can also, I don't have enough room where my canvas is. You can also hold tension on it when it's under the canvas. And I'm going to show you, if you have not a trolley needle, but this is my, it's my Teco bar. Let's see if I can get it in the camera view. Okay, so now I'm ending. You see how I'm going to take my needle and kind of pull this stitch down so that I can see the hole that's underneath. Whoop, to end this first stitch. Now I'm taking care not to pierce this neon rays at this point. Okay, it's the same motion. You stroke under and follow it into the hole. Now for this one, a traditional sprat's head is not stitched in this method. Usually what you do is half of the stitches come from this side and the other half come from this side. So half of them start on the diagonal and the other half start on the straight side. And the reason for this, what this does is it puts lines across the back of it. I'm not stitching in that way because doing that builds up a lot of thread along the diagonal line. And I don't want to have that build up. So I'm going to start all of my stitches on the diagonal line, but they're all going to end over the first two stitches. Okay. I also have gorgeous glass laying tools that a friend gifted me. And they're nice. The reason why I use a trolley needle instead of a traditional laying tool is because I have a lot of fatigue in my hands. When you hold a laying tool, the way my muscles are, this causes fatigue all through here and I can't stitch as long. And so if I don't have to hold the laying tool, it's better for me. So I'm going to switch back to my trolley needle at this point. No, I don't poke my eye out with it. Now, if you lose track while you're stitching a sprat's head and you need to figure out where you are. Yep. The stitch that is on top, that has nothing on top of it, is your last stitch. You can also count your endpoints. You can count your diagonal endpoints. You should have the same number, and you can count your endpoints along the straight edge. So can y'all see how this is starting to pull this in? And it's making it easier for me to see the channel that I need to stitch into. When I use my laying tool, I stroke whatever it is I'm laying on the canvas in the opposite direction that I'm stitching. And then I follow it into the hole. Now, usually, if you're stitching a sprat's head with nothing around it, like my demonstration here, It's really easy to get off on this diagonal line. But because you are sharing holes with the double crosses, that should not be a problem for you. You should not get off on the diagonal lines. I'm going to do 2 more stitches and I'm just going to end this off because I've demonstrated what I wanted to demonstrate. Now also, if your neon rays gets a little tatty, which it can easily do while you're stitching with it, you can take your, pull it up, take your flat iron and iron it again. And a lot of times that'll put, see, I've got a little bobble right here. A lot of times that will put everything back together the way you want it to. Okay, well, let's do 1 more stitch. Okay, I'm going to end off with a T-stitch. Now the reason why I'm using a T-stitch is because I want the stitch to be very flat. And yeah, see my little flaw is showing here. So I would probably, nope, I'm unplugged. Iron that to get it back together. And I'm going to put my T-stitch. I can separate the stitches just like this. Nope, there's that. And I'm going to clip this off. Okay.
We have a chat question, Debbie.
Okay.
What length of thread do you use?
Let's see. It says it takes about 56 inches for each sprat's head. And if you're not comfortable stitching with that length, you can always start and stop like I did. But I will use a long length. And what I do is I try to make sure that I'm going straight up and down through the canvas. That looked weird. Straight up and down through the canvas and not allowing my neon rays to catch on the edge or to drag across the canvas. And so a lot of times I will even, let me just cut another length and I'll show you.
We have another question. Can we
Sure.
see the back? Can we see the back, please?
Sure, I will turn it over here in just a second. Okay, so I'm not going to iron this, but it'll be fine for the demonstration. Just get it anchored really quick. So a T-stitch is going to be very flat, and with the ribbon, you want it to be very flat. If I were to do 3 times over the same canvas thread, it might make a little bit of a lump, and we don't want a little bit of a lump. Because this is all very flat and smooth, and we want it to remain flat and smooth. Okay, so let me clip this off.
Okay, so because we have a related question, which I would think when you flip over, we'll be able to talk about.
Okay.
So is whether you're attempting or worrying about keeping the thread flat on the back.
No.
It didn't look like you were worrying about that. Does that cause you any problems? Marilyn Owen says she finds that when she tries to do that, it helps keep it flat on the front as well.
If it twists and you can't get it to straighten up, you can, of course, pay attention to the way it's laying on the back. See, I didn't iron this, and so it's wanting to curl a little bit. So I'm just going to help hold it down. Get this finished up. So I'm not allowing my neon rays to drag across the canvas. I kind of let it pool up because that seems to help keep down some of the issues with the edges fraying and starting to look kind of tatty. Oh, good, I'm on the diagonal. Yay! If you're ever wondering if you're on the diagonal, if you're having to stitch a sprat's head without any boundaries, you can always take your needle and I poke it up in the holes where I'm stitching to make sure that I'm still on the diagonal. Okay, now these are my last 2 stitches. This one I'm going to come up over here instead of coming up in the same hole where I ended the stitch. And I believe the diagrams are illustrated that way. Okay, so here's my completed sprat's head. I'm going to end off this thread, find a piece of blank canvas underneath. And there's no end points under the center part. And so you should be able to just kind of move the thread aside to find this is really short. Let's see if we can do this. Now, I always do 3 stitches to end neon rays because, you know, it's cantankerous and it doesn't want to do what we want it to do. Okay, so there we go. Click this off. And just kind of smooth that over. That stitch loosened up a little bit. I think because it wasn't ironed. And let me turn this over and we'll look at the back. Okay, can y'all see that? Here's my pin stitches for starting and stopping right along here. This is my last stitch because I didn't want to bring the needle up in the same hole where the previous stitch was. I wanted to end in that hole, not bring it up in that hole. And it's made this kind of Amadeus crescent looking thing on the back. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? You know, my neon rays looks pretty flat on the back. I think there's a few little twists, but it doesn't look too bad.
We just had another comment. Kathy noted, and I have seen that too, that most of the time in your instructions, you include the length of the thread needed to do a stitch, and that's very helpful.
Yes. Well, I always want to be helpful. Okay, can I flip this over now? Are we through looking at the back or is that good?
I think so. I don't see any other questions coming up about that.
It's over. Put this here and okay, so we've discussed oh, I don't need to share my screen. I need to go back to the gallery view. Okay, can we take this? Okay, there we go. Did we unpin the canvas? Are we all, there we go. Okay, so nope, I've lost track of what I was going to say. You have 2 diagrams for the sprat's head. And I thought I gave you two. I think there's two in the, maybe that's something else I was thinking of. I saw your comment, Marilyn, and thank you for pointing that out. If y'all want, I can give you a different diagram, but all you have to do is just reverse the direction of the stitches. They look the same on the front. And when you stitch a sprat's head, it looks the same on the front. It just looks different on the back. It doesn't matter if you start, let's see, let me share my screen, go back to this. Okay. It's going to look exactly the same on the front, whether you have all of your stitches coming from this direction, from on the diagonal, or whether you have half of them coming this way and half of them coming this way. And so if you want to stitch the way that I just showed you, all you would do is reverse the direction of these. That's all you have to do. Another option, and I didn't include this in the instructions because I think it's confusing. I think it's a little confusing. Instead of the first two stitches ending here, you would make it here and then end the stitches over it. Now, I don't like that. The way a sprat's head looks does not bother me at all. Let me go back to the, and let's zoom this in. You see, it has this kind of pulled in look right here. I'm fine with that. I have stitched sprat's heads in a different, slightly different from this so that it doesn't have the pulled in look, and I'm fine with it the way it is. But, you know, if it distresses you or bothers you for some reason, email me and I'll send you a new diagram, but I think that this is fine. It looks like my picture. I've got threads and dog hairs and stuff like that that are coming up when I zoom in on it. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions about the sprat's heads?
So that was answering Marilyn's question about the printed instructions.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, let's move on to the Amadeus stitches. Okay. So when you're stitching an Amadeus, the most common mistakes that you're going to have are putting two stitches in the same hole or skipping a hole. Those are the most common things. And getting off of the diagonal line. So always remember that you're making a triangle. That's what, always keep this in mind. I'm making a triangle. And I don't remember enough of my geometry to know what kind of triangle. Is this an equilateral triangle? What is it? I don't know. But let's look at the escape that. There we go. Okay, so I gave you this diagram in the files today. I think it's in the photos, with the first two stitches of the Amadeus shown in red. And you can see that on this end, it does not share a hole with the sprat's heads, but it does on this end. Then the second stitch is going to come from here and share a hole this way. So that's what it's going to look like. And when you have finished stitching, all of these stitches are going to end under the stitch of the sprat's head, not over it. It's gonna, so you'll need to kind of separate with your needle or your fingernail a little bit and find the channel. They should all be in the same channel like this. And you can see that here's one end, shares a hole with the tip of the sprats. Here's the other end, shares a hole. And then it moves up in a triangle form from there. Now, if you do not have 12 endpoints on each side of your sprat's head, it's not going to fit. So always check and make sure that your Spratz heads have the 12 points, the end points, 12 this way, 12 this way, so that your Amadeuses are going to fit properly. And then you'll also notice that at the end of it, 3 stitches end in the or begin in the same hole. They don't end in shared holes, but they begin in shared holes. This diagram is in the photos as well, so that you can look closely at it. It kind of looks like they're not all in the same hole, because one of the stitches the end points looks a little bit longer, but they are all in the same hole. This is to give us the triangle shape. If I were stitching this and only, I got into the hole to complete the triangle shape this way, there'd be 2 holes left open across the bottom. And we don't want that. We want all of the holes across the bottom to be filled. So that's why that looks that way. So would y'all like to, let me stitch the Amadeus real quickly. Let's go back to the canvas. And Kelly,
Okay.
can you make that?
Yep. And while we're doing that, we can say that Jane remembers her geometry, and she says that's an isosceles triangle.
Oh, okay, thank you. See, I knew Jane would know because she's a math teacher, math professor. So I knew Jane would know. Okay, so I have my, on my canvas, I have starting and stopping points for the, so it's gonna, I'm gonna be stitching the same way it is in the book, but it's gonna look different. So where I'm gonna put my pin stitch is, okay, this is the channel that I'm gonna be stitching all of my endpoints into. I don't want to put my pin stitch there. I'm going to put it kind of right in the center. I'm going to do 3 times over the same hole. Oh, I'm sorry, over the same canvas thread. It's going to make a little bit of a lump, but there's a lot of lumpy through the center of this anyway. Get that off of the edge. Don't want it to fray. I'm not wearing my stitching glasses, so I apologize in advance if I get my head in the way, just so I can see this. Now, let me get my diagram so that I make sure I do this correctly. Okay, I'm going to bring my needle up here. I'm going to end the first stitch here. Now I'm going to bring the needle up here. And the second stitch here. Okay. Now, when you first begin, you're going to need to kind of pull the thread up so you can see where you need to end your stitches. As you stitch along, it's going to naturally pull out of the way, and you'll be able to see it a lot easier. I did not measure the thread before I started stitching with it, so I may or may not have enough. But you know, if I don't, I'll just start and stop another one. You stitch from one side, then the other side. You can't stitch all of one side and then all of the other side. It won't look right. And I'm going to flip this over and show you the back of it after I get finished. Because a lot of times if you get off, by looking at the back, you can see more clearly exactly where you got off. Most of the time, if you're going to make a mistake and put 2 stitches in the same hole, it's going to be along here or here before this first 2 stitches are kind of, can y'all see it's starting to pull up out of the way, and I've got a clear shot of the channel I'm stitching into now. And again, if you're trying to figure out what was my last stitch, it'll be the stitch that doesn't have any thread on top of it. You can also count your endpoints. If I have an uneven number of endpoints, I have more on this side than on this side, then I know my next stitch needs to start over here. Okay, and now before I finish it, I've got 1 stitch left here. I've got 3 holes across the bottom, which is exactly as I need it to be. And I was also going to point out, if your silk lame braid starts to fray or kind of untwist, you can always put some twist back into it by holding it above the canvas and twisting. And that'll put it back together again. It's kind of the reverse concept of letting your needle drop and untwist. Okay, so now I've got 3 stitches in the same hole at the top, and I've filled every hole across the bottom. I'm going to find some empty canvas right here. I'm going to do 3 stitches over the same canvas thread to end. And I do this from the front because I want to make sure I don't split the threads. I think I'm just going to do 2. Silk lame braid is not as slippery as neon rays, and so 2 stitches should be enough. And I'm going to take my needle and just kind of stroke those threads back over my pin stitch. Now you can't see where my pin stitch is. But this was a really dark color, maybe not showing up as well on camera as we need it to. Okay, here's the back of my Amadeus. I have stitches mostly in a straight line all along this back. If I had 2 stitches in one hole, there would be a gap. Or if I skipped a hole, there would be a gap. Anybody have any questions about that? It's really dark. I apologize. I've got lights on it. Let's see if I can get it up closer. I'm not real good with my spatial orientation. There we go. Okay, this is the back. You can see that all of my holes across the bottom are all filled. I have my triangle shape. I don't have any skipped holes. I don't have any gaps, and the thread carries on the back, so I know it's stitched correctly. Whoop. There it is. See if I, yeah, turn it this way. Nope, this way. Told y'all, I just have all kinds of problems with spatial orientation. So I'll be glad when I get my camera set up because it'll show me what y'all are seeing more accurately. Okay, let's go back to me.
Okay. And doesn't appear to be any questions on that one.
Okay, is everybody good with that?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, does anybody have any questions about anything so far? Thread colors, pin stitches, starting and stopping, inflation? I can't answer any questions about inflation. I'm not in charge of that.
The meaning of life.
Yeah, the meaning of life. No, I'm sorry. I can't address that. I know the answer to the question is 42, but that's all I know. Those of you who are Doug Adams fans will understand that. Okay, anything else? Are we good? We're all okay? Okay. Those of you who are working ahead, if you have questions about things that are in advance, please let me know. The entire playlist is posted so that you can look at the videos as you're ready for them. And so even if you're stitching ahead because you don't have anything else to stitch, and so you're just going to go ahead and get this finished quickly. If you're like me, you've always got other things to stitch. So anything else? Okay. Well, we finished that a little bit early today. If you have any questions, be sure to email me or message me on Facebook or whatever. I'll be happy to help you, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kelly.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I appreciate the help. I would not have looked at the chats, and so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't be looking at the stitching and see the chats at the same time. So that's why I offered and said, because, and then, I mean, I would wait till it looked like you were at a pausing point
Okay.
and then bring up the questions so that you could focus on that. So, yeah,
Well, thank you
happy to
so
help
much.
out.
It was a great help. I appreciate it. And
Good.
so
Well, I'll be back on Thursday then.
yay, thank you. Okay, we will see
Okay.
you all next week.